Okay, it is Finance Friday. It's the first Friday of the month for October, and I'm just going to update you on kind of like what I've been doing to try to work out some of my financial goals and some of the issues that I'm having. So, if you're like me, you get your check, you pay all your bills, and then by like the Monday before you get paid again, you are completely out of money. So, definitely one way to avoid that is actually to track your spending and plan your spending. However, for me, what seems to work and what I did this week was just doing a straight up cash diet. So for that first week, I pay all of the bills that are going to be due for those first 2 weeks of the month. And then I give myself $60 cash. And so that's for anything else. If I need to make another trip to the grocery store, if I need a little bit more for gas, if I want to buy a coffee, that's it, $60 the first week. And so while that sounds restrictive, if you do it just for the first week, the cool thing about it is that that the next week is going to open up for you. And so you're going to have a little more cash to spend. But for me, it gives me a sense of security just knowing that I'm not going to go over the following month or the following week. So it actually feels really good and secure. I keep my debit cards at home and all I have with me is the cash. And of course, depending on your income, that cash amount will vary. But $60 worked really well for the first week for me. And then, so I basically did the same thing for the next week where I took out $60 cash. But then by Tuesday, I put my debit cards back in my wallet because I know that, my payday is coming. And so then I feel more secure with, being only 48 hours away from the paycheck, having my debit cards back in my purse. And then I did do an unplanned trip to get some fast food for the kids because I had a midday meeting. And so I left them at the library, went to my meeting, and then we were all starving. So we grabbed, it spent about $35 on some Carl's Jr. And so that keeps those little, unplanned things and little treats and things like that towards the next paycheck rather than, in the first week. And then you just blow it and then you're feeling completely insecure and terrified for that last week while you're just hanging on by a thread. So that's something that I recommend trying, is just cash diet for that first week that you get paid. And then for some of you, man, I know that you pay your bills on that first week and that takes up all of your income. So that takes a little more, sitting down and planning and preparing for those bills, maybe, way before they come and making sure what check those bills are coming out of. Just being a little bit organized can actually help kind of alleviate that even when your expense to income ratio is really high. So I still haven't set foot on a car dealership lot. And I keep saying I'm going to do that, and I keep not doing it. Basically, it's really been more of a time thing. I've just had a lot going on and haven't had time to run down and do that. And it's a thing I don't really want to take the kids with me to do. So it kind of has to be on a specific day when I know my husband's going to be home. But I'm going to maybe try to actually do that on Friday, just to go look around next Friday. So we'll see. I keep saying I'm going to do it, and then I don't do it. But the longer I push that away, closer to tax season, the more comfortable I get with the idea of purchasing a car because I know I'm going to get a big tax refund. Speaking of that, I just do want to remind everybody that because of the new tax legislation, the new bill that passed, that is retroactive all the way from this past January. So right now, everyone is doing the standard deduction from, the previous legislation. So your checks have just been the same as they were the previous years. But because it's retroactive, you're going to end up getting a much bigger tax refund because that's all then going to get applied when you file your taxes. So, and for some people, you'll benefit more from those tax breaks than other people will. And I'm not even sure which ones are going to affect me personally, but do expect a probably larger than normal tax refund. And then keep in mind that because moving forward this next January, you're going to have fewer taxes taken out of your check. So you're going to be taking home more money every month. So just remember that when you file in 2026, that tax refund is going to be smaller because you've been taxed less throughout the year. So personally, I prefer having more money in my pocket each month than just having the big payout at the end of the year, because a lot of times when you get that big chunk of money, you feel like you need to immediately assign it to different things, whereas I feel like if you kind of get the slow, it's kind of like the lottery payout. You kind of like want that slow over time so you can create plans and habits as you know that money's consistently coming in. So I don't know, it depends. I guess it depends on the person, but yeah, just keep an eye out for that. So, I hope that everybody watching this is going to get a big fat tax refund this year. And I hope you guys are going to enjoy the rest of 2026, just, getting to take home your paycheck, because goodness, it's like every 4 years, it's just more and more taxes, federal, state. It's wild. So I would like to just keep what I earn, like they did in the old days when they first created this lovely country of ours. So the other things that I've got going on are home projects, which obviously, like when you think about it logically, home projects, which, are superficial in nature, those, are not priorities. They aren't necessities, but there really is something to say about like just being comfortable in your own space and how that affects your mental health. So what I've done is I have created lists, and I mentioned this before, but I want to break it down for you guys because this really could help you. It's been helping me a lot. When I get overwhelmed with home projects, even not necessarily ones that cost money, but just things that need to be done, organizing, cleaning, things like that. What I found is if I write lists, and you can categorize them however you want, but you should put them in different categories. You want multiple lists. I would say like 3 or 4 lists. So how I break mine down is indoor projects that don't cost money. So meaning just my own labor and, sweat and tears. And then I have indoor projects that cost money. So those are 2 different lists. And then I have outdoor projects that don't cost money. And I have outdoor projects that cost money. So I write down all the projects in each of the respective categories. And then I go into each list and I number them either from like most important or most urgent to least urgent, or I will do what I actually can feasibly do, first, second, third, just depending on how you want to do that on each list. And that in itself, because then I can look at my list and I go, okay, what are all my ones? So I look at my 4 lists and I go, what are all my ones? Could I get all 4 of those ones, those priorities done in a weekend? And then I check, I can do them, or maybe I get 2 of them, or maybe I get 3, and then I check them off. And it just feels so good. It takes that overwhelming kind of like ambiguous floating out there terror, of all these things that you need to get done. When I break it down for me like that, it really helps my brain compartmentalize and understand it and feel like I've actually done something. Like just having that plan creates so much security in my mind, and it really alleviates so much anxiety. And then I just love being able to check those things off. And then at any point in time, you can reorder them. So say you get your 1s and your 2s done, and then you kind of relook at the list. And I say keep revisiting it every day. Like what, do I need to change anything? So you might decide this is a bigger priority than this thing is, or I'm going to actually have money to buy this right now, so I can just check that off the list before I get to number 3 on this list. And that has really, really helped me. So I don't have my little book with me to actually show you what it looks like, but I will hopefully in another video. And that can work for fitness goals, home projects, whatever you want to do. You can have like 3 different books. And I love getting in there and getting them organized. It just makes me feel relaxed, and it feels like you're doing something in those moments where you actually can't do anything. It actually feels like a task in itself that you've been able to check off. So I love that. So I hope that's helpful. I don't really have any other updates. I'm basically, done with my big education expenses that I've had to do for this year. And then, Christmas is coming up, holidays are coming up. And in my next video, I want to talk about how I'm planning for those things, because this is not going to be a wing it year like I've done in the past. And so I'm actually going to have a plan, and actually have a more reasonable budget, because I tried to set one for myself last year and I went over, and I knew I was going to go over when I made it, because I'm like, when it comes to my kids, I overdo it. And like, and actually I would say I underdo it compared to the average parent, but like the average parent is, a hardcore consumer and wants to just, the stockings are overflowing, there's more presents than there is tree. And so, I'm actually probably much more mild, but, to myself and my own scale, I think I go overboard sometimes, based on my income and what what the time calls for, right? It's just become so many activities and so many decorations, and like, just there's a new thing every year that is the trend that people are doing. And so I have definitely created like what I want for my family tradition wise, what I consider to be something I'm willing to spend money on that actually matters, versus something that's just going to be junk, that's going to be thrown away or isn't even going to make it through the season. So that'll be my next Finance Friday. I will talk about holiday planning and hopefully offer you guys some helpful tips on that. And if you guys ever have any helpful tips or things that work for you, please leave them in the comments, because I really want this to be a community where we all can kind of bounce ideas off each other, because I really feel like, if you're a millennial, especially, we were the generation that was just kind of thrown out in the world. Like our parents were prepared for the world, and they did kind of all the right things, and then like never really demonstrated that for us. Like they would tell us what was the right thing to do, but we really like didn't quite. We're like, yeah, whatever, we were living these comfortable lives and watching Nickelodeon, and then like life happened. And so not to put it on our parents or blame our parents for it, but it just, I feel like we're that generation that just kind of like, we just started out on the wrong foot, and we're kind of like digging ourselves out of a hole. So let's dig ourselves out of a hole together. Thank you guys for watching the channel and keeping me accountable, and I would love to hear from you. So I will catch you in the next update. Okay, so post edit. I just wanted to add, because I don't know if it was clear, the $60 cash diet, that is after bills are paid, I've bought groceries for the week, and I've got a full tank of gas. So I just want to make sure that was clear. So in case any of you were like, how the heck did she survive for a week on $60? So anything in addition to that, that's all I had. Okay. Also, I forgot to mention the couch situation. I mentioned that I was wanting to get a new couch, and I'm looking at, $1,300 to get a nice couch. And I decided to go with a $400 boneless couch. Okay. One thing that I said I was going to do was I was not going to purchase it until I had $1,000 back in my emergency fund. Completely forgot that that was one of the commitments I made, and I don't. And so I screwed up there. However, I didn't put it on credit, paid cash for it. It's still in the box, haven't even taken it out yet. But let me just show you, let me plead my case. Okay, I'm gonna show you the couch, my old couch. Okay, at first glance, you're like, that's perfectly fine. What's wrong? Why would you waste money on that? Okay, I just cleaned these. These can come off and go in the wash and be cleaned. These are stuck to the couch. And I knew this when I bought it, and I had a concern about it. So these cannot go in the wash. So things like this, I can't clean that. No matter what I do, I can't get it off. And I just want to show you this. After 3 months of having this, I would get up and kind of lean my elbow on to help myself up, and then it broke inside here. So this is broken. And then I'll go ahead and show you the cat's handiwork. So split open. It's completely split open on this side. And this is just because it's, cheap manufacturing. And it's just low quality stitching and everything. So yeah. So why am I gonna get a $1,300 couch if potentially this is gonna happen again? So I'm committed to this boneless sofa for the next 2 years while I've still got young kids and cats that like to scratch things. We are going to, of course, get a couple more of these spray bottles and just be really vigilant about it and really get them out of the habit of doing it. But I just didn't want to go into winter with this sofa anymore. It's not comfortable and it's ripped to shreds.
Okay, that's all for real. Bye.